All right, welcome to another episode of Y&T and Friends Vinyl Talk. I'm your host, Brian Foster, and this is part two of, I was going to say Y&T, but technically, I guess it's Yesterday and Today's debut
Yeah,
album up here.
yeah. Here's got a hype sticker. Oh, promotional
Yeah,
copy. Yeah.
actually got a little Dave
Signature.
autograph on the bottom there, too. So,
Now, did you yourself get that, or is that the way you bought it?
no, I got this. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I got
Good.
that from Dave. So, all right, so part one. Did show you all the vinyl releases for this. So if you haven't seen that yet, please go check that out. Not too long of an episode because there's not too many copies on vinyl there. But as you can see to my left here, have a returning guest, Mr. Tim Durling from Tim's Vinyl Confession, and also the author of this great book here, Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. So Tim, thanks for coming back on.
Oh, look, you'd never need to ask me twice, Brian. Talk about Y&T. Um, it's my vinyl copy is. I think I've talked about this, but it was a holy grail of mine, and I happened to find it in 1995, and I was over the moon. But my copy is unique because it's got down at the bottom. This belonged to someone named Dale Dale E. Sumner. I'm going to guess
All
not
right.
no relation to Gordon, and with 19477. So Dale Sumner bought this record somewhere, April 19th, 1977, and somehow it ended up in Halifax when I happened to be there at a record show. And I haven't watched the first part yet, but this is what my vinyl looks like.
Yep, that's the red London label, the Canadian.
Yeah, and then it's stamped with something. Oh, it's Dale Sumner's address. He lived in,
So is
let's
that the
see,
Sumners of the Halifax Sumners or
uh, oh, this looks like it's hard to tell what it actually says. Something Lareday City. I can't tell where if it's well, the postal code is letter number, so it's Canadian.
yeah?
But yeah, he lived on 320 Elizabeth Avenue somewhere. When I first looked, oh, I bet that says Labrador City. Must be Newfoundland.
Okay.
Um, at first, when I first looked at it, I thought, does that say Paradise City? But no, it doesn't. But yeah, that was a huge find. I mean, I never thought I'd ever have that on vinyl. I had we talked about this on the when we talked about the Rock Candy reissues. I had the Mondo CD,
Yep.
so I did have the songs on it. Now you're right, this excuse me, this was not an album that was pressed and repressed at all. But so it was, when you got it, you really felt like you'd accomplished something. I've also kept this from way, way back. I printed it off the internet like years ago. This ad. You've probably
Yeah.
got the actual ad.
Yeah, I'll
Just
actually I'll throw
yeah,
that up here in the
yeah.
episode here.
Is this from a
A
billboard or something?
copy
Or
of that. So that particular one, that's the second ad that they put
okay,
out. So that one was in January of 77. That was in at least in Crashbox or
Cashbox. Yeah,
Cashbox. Yeah,
Cashbox. Yeah, yeah.
Cashbox. This one
Oh, so it's
was
similar, but it's
yeah.
not. Doesn't have the yellow on it.
No, this was the original one. So this was in Billboard magazine, November 27th of 76, and also in Cashbox of November of 76, November 29th, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's another one where I've seen it listed as the release date listed as this, I think December 9th, 1976, which I suppose that could be, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna ask you about that if you had a definitive
no,
release date for that
that's why
because
I always put in my books estimated release.
right, and then
It's not, if that's the case, it's nowhere near as far off as
yeah.
Contagious.
Because in the same copy on Cashbox, and I'll put it up here on the screen as well. There was sort of that added airplay from a radio station in San Francisco had this debut release for yesterday and today as an ad in that November 20 it was 29th, I believe, 1976. And then I couldn't find any other ads or anything like that in any earlier or later issues.
And as we know, I mean, obviously it didn't chart, so you can't really
No,
track it that
nope.
way. Um, no, yeah, I mean,
And
Brian and I recently fell down this rabbit hole of world radio history. I used it all the
yeah,
time for the Canadian RPM charts, but I don't know why it never occurred to me. Just about every music publication is on there, so I've been having a ball looking through radio and records and Cashbox and keywords,
yeah,
Meniketti and
exactly.
Earthshaker and
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
kind of fun.
yeah, it really so London obviously spent a little bit of money on a couple of ads, but another
Yeah,
thing
because
about
there's
it, well,
a test pressing that I've seen out there that has a date of 9/17/76. So
that would track
September.
because I mean it wouldn't be out
Nope.
if they needed to. Yeah. When it lists the album as getting some airplay, sometimes it lists like songs next to it. Does this when you
Nope.
no? Sometimes it'll list two or three like abbreviated song titles. I was just curious. Makes sense.
Just the
Yeah, it's a
album
store.
and London Records. That's so I'm assuming that was the album and not the group, but um, yeah, no, they didn't list any there, and that's really the only thing I found when it came to this album. So yeah, so somewhere, obviously test pressing mid-September to December, some of that time range.
Radio stations would get their copies in
Exactly.
advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
interesting too.
The
Like
copy
you
right there.
yeah, like you alluded to, it's like, okay, so yesterday and today's first album was self-titled and it's Y&T, but Y&T don't have an album called Y&T.
T.
So it's
Yep.
it's kind of funny. And yeah, I mean, every once in a while I'll see like a compilation of songs that are called Yesterday and Today favorites or something like that. I mean, obviously there's the Beatles, but I've also seen I think there's I don't say it's not a Yes tribute. It's one of those well, it's like the equivalent of truck stop tape I used to talk about, but it would have all of these songs from like tribute albums that one or member of Yes performed on. It'll like sometimes you see them called the rockin' roots of whoever, and they'll show up at Walmart's or whatever, and just to fool people into buying them. Usually the band they mention isn't even really on there, but I think there's
Yeah.
one of those types of releases for Yes music that's called Yesterday and Today, and they actually have a song on their first album called Yesterday and Today. But enough about that. We're not talking prog
Gotcha.
this morning.
Now we are talking 70s rock, and
Yeah.
while we're kind of talking about it, we can since I did already show the vinyl in the last episode, there are a couple other pieces there, and I know since your unspooled there book, um,
Uh,
this was a
still,
fairly recent addition for
yeah,
me. I was just thrilled to finally find this thing because it is.
still blows my mind that yeah, that it exists. Yeah, as far as I know, it's just the first two, the Yesterday and Today albums that came out in this format. And the
Yeah,
funny thing is, like back in the Y&T forum days online, someone posted a picture just this without the slipcase, and I didn't know about the whole. I didn't know about the naked eight tracks phenomenon. I didn't know why is there no cover on that.
yeah,
I knew it was real because it had it said London and it had the serial number, but I was confused, right? And it was a really poor quality one. But I will say this: in more recent years, since I got introduced to Discogs, I tracked down the guy that posted that photo. I said, "Have you still got a copy of that? Because I would like to use it to make an entry for this 8 track on Discogs." And it got me that 8 track by posting that. Ditto for the cassette. I saw
yeah. I was
somebody
just gonna
posted
say
this, and
that's the
this
one
took
I'm
me.
missing.
Yeah, this is even harder to find than the 8 track, which is nuts. Like that makes no sense. I found
Yeah,
the struck down one years ago, but this one eluded me. And you can tell, obviously, London had a theme with with their cassettes, much like Mercury did. They had those
yeah,
beige ones that they had, so the 8 tracks and the cassettes were the same. But yeah, pretty cool. You'll find one. You'll find one. I
yeah.
I I,
That
I have faith.
that cassette does have a 76 date on there too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and it's also both of these London ones have the very small window.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
cassette's also blue. What's interesting is that there's actually a little bit of information on both the 8-track slipcase, well, on the 8-track slipcase and the tape itself. And this, it actually has the songwriting credits, which
yeah.
that's
You don't
more
really
than you
see that.
normally,
Yeah,
it's more than you normally get, right?
yeah.
However, it doesn't list, one thing it doesn't list is the producer. This was produced by Robert Smith, or better known as Smiggy, who I learned from the On With the Show documentary was Robin Trower's sound guy.
Yep.
Um, don't know if I've seen his name on much of anything else. I think I may have, oddly enough, because this ties in with another book of mine. I think he produced either a solo album for Bob Welch or one of the
Okay.
albums he did, because he did two albums in the mid 70s with a band called Paris.
Oh,
Um,
yes, Paris.
with Gene Cornick, who I think was the original bassist for Jethro Tull. Um, and to lead into another book, I think the song China is on one of those two albums, and Sammy Hagar put that on 9 out of 10 scale. So there's Bay Area
Oh
stuff
yeah, there. Yeah,
everywhere, right? And it's
yeah,
all around that
absolutely.
75, 76 period.
Yep. Well, I kind of found it interesting too. When London did release the one single,
Yeah.
Alcohol. Um, but that has a 1977 copyright on it.
It is, yeah, it is interesting. Maybe, yeah, obviously this is a promo copy.
Yeah.
I think there is a copy that's got like I don't know, the sunrise logo and behind it. It's the most
Yeah,
unrock and
I did
roll.
show that on the last
Yeah.
episode. So,
It's the most unrock and roll looking logo.
I,
There are
and it
some
does
April.
have 25 hours a day on the B side.
Oh, that's see to me that would have been a single.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a great, fun barroom rock and roller, but 25 hours a day is the catchier song, I
Yeah,
think.
we needed a DJ to do with this.
Detroit Rock City,
Yes,
Beth type
Beth.
thing, flip it over, yeah.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, I've seen there's a few April Wine singles that came out in the States that two of their albums were on London at this time as well, but I'm happy with the DJ copy.
Yeah.
Um, now, of course, there's another single that came out in the land of the rising sun.
Japan, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I'll see your Yesterday and Today cassette and raise you the one you're about to show me because I don't have this single. Every time I've seen it, it is Boku Bucks.
that would be
Yeah,
this guy right here.
Earthshaker. Yeah,
And
something
that one's
about
on a
I. Oh
yellow
yeah,
label.
yeah, and I know that there are some copies of the first album in London that are on King Records,
Yeah,
which is
so and I did show that too, right? The latest release of that was 2024, and it was Sun King, which is,
okay.
you know, they re-released this debut album on there, and so King is tied into even these early credits somewhere. I think it was the Japan version or something like that, but there is some sort of tie.
I think it was a big label over there.
Yeah.
And as we know from the documentary, was it Mr. Udo liked them like
Oh
this album
yes,
from the beginning, and then a
yes,
few
that's
years
true.
later, he realized that this band Y&T was the same. He didn't know it at first. He realized
Yes,
they were the same band.
that's right.
They
I
were
forgot about
so,
that.
that country was very, very good to our guys.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, this album came out in 1976. However, neither of us got it in 1976 or anywhere near there. So, um, in fact, depending on when you got into Y&T, and we'll talk about that, but this album had come and gone and out of record stores, nowhere to
Well,
be found.
yeah, hopelessly out of print is the way
Yes.
I like because it's not just a matter of the record label deleting. The record label itself was inactive as far as popular music was concerned. And, and I'm sure when you talk about Struck Down, I mean, that there's no singles from that album because
Nope.
that did well to get a release.
Yeah, they, and I know we talked about it. I'm surprised they actually did did a cassette and 8-track run on that
Yeah.
then because
It's like they're pushing, they're pushing the records out the door with one hand and they've got the key to lock up
and
the
yeah, locking
the
it up.
warehouse
Yeah,
in the other. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, as yesterday and today progressed and then turned into Y&T in 81 with Earthshaker and as they start getting a little more popular, these first two albums, there's not a whole lot of access to them, to that music, no internet and that, not really available to get them in stores. So I know that Loretta, who started the Y&T fan club,
Yep.
I think,
Yep. People ought to know that name if they've read the credits for
yes,
Y&T. Yeah, she
absolutely,
was their fan club.
all over.
Her
Yeah.
and her and I can't think of the other name. Um, it's like
Oh,
if I
yes.
thought of one, I wouldn't be able to think of the other.
Right. Yeah, I
But yeah,
know.
they ran the fan club and I think they're
Years and
still
years
going.
and years. So
I
in 1985, so probably around time Open Fire and stuff came up and Summertime Girls getting popular, that they did this homemade
I love it so much.
cassette tape
That's so cool. I don't have that.
on TDK,
Yep.
and I believe that's Loretta's writing right there.
Yeah. So,
And just a contract paper J card.
yeah, when Brian showed me that, I'm like, that has got to be construction paper. That takes me
Yep.
back to, you know, the night before a project is due. Mom, I need a sheet of construction paper.
Right.
Can you go get some?
Yeah, they even put the little copyright Y&T Music Inc. 1985.
Now that's interesting. Nowadays it would say Mean Streak Music, but
Right?
I love that the fact that they put the old logo on there too, because people wouldn't have seen that, right?
No.
They wouldn't have seen what the old Yesterday and Today logo
Nope.
looks like. Now, I was talking with Brian before we started filming. I have a bit of a theory about that whole time period to do with one of the songs on the first album. And I don't know if you want to get into it now, but I know you
Yeah,
want to
let's do
talk
it.
about some of the songs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this is my theory, and like I said, I don't do conspiracy theories. I'm not, I don't crush tinfoil on my antenna or anything. It's a pretty low stakes one. It's just a guess that I have. Because we've talked about this when I guested on here talking about Open Fire and what a strange track listing that album has. It's short. It doesn't have anything from the two albums they had that charted.
Yep.
So it doesn't have Mean Streak or Don't Stop Running on it or anything, but it does have 25 hours a day. So
Yep.
I was thinking, I don't know, it just hit me the other day. I was like, why would they be doing songs from an album that's hopelessly out of print so fans, that fans would like? It's like, well, why we like this song. Where can we get it? This is what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if A&M or didn't come to them and say, "Oh, In Rock We Trust sold really well. We think your next album's going to be the one, and if it really hits, we're going to reissue your first two Yesterday and Today records. So why don't you start playing some songs from them live? Put one on this live album to for a preview." I could be totally off my
Yep.
rocker, but it's just a guess. It's like, why would they do that? And we talked about this. Well, I don't know when it's going to air, but when we talked about the recent 1983 show that was reissued, there's no songs. Like, I'd like to know if any of those songs from the first two albums survived very far into the A&M years. I'm going to guess they didn't for that very reason, because why would you promote songs that people can't get? So I'm just wondering about that, if that was something where if this album is huge, whatever the next album after In Rock We Trust would have been, let's say it was an Open
Yeah.
Fire and Summertime Girls was a big, big hit, it happens. People get their albums reissued. I mean, when ZZ Top left London Records for Warner Brothers, Warner's reissued all of their previous catalog. Obviously, they were more successful, but I don't know. That's my
Yeah.
big theory right there. Is the reason they started playing 25 hours? Maybe they'd been playing it for 4 years at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, it's you
Something
know,
to think about anyway.
that's why I'd love to get Loretta on the show. Yeah,
Absolutely.
been in
Yeah.
contact with her, and so I'll definitely send her a clip of this video when it comes out, and
Yeah. I mean,
if
because
I
I mean,
can
like we said, the Open Fire has a strange track list on it.
yeah,
It's got two
and it's
brand new
hard,
songs.
yeah, you can't find set list, set list FM. You just can't find those set lists for what they were playing and stuff back then. This
No.
could have been one of those they just did in the Bay Area a lot, which is
Yeah, because
where they,
if people are gonna know it, it's the people that have been following them the longest, right?
yes,
The
exactly. So
people
they
that
probably
called
pull
them,
out,
yeah, once in a while, the people that called them Y&T long before they sh officially shortened it.
right? Yeah. Um, yeah. So, again, 1983 is when I got into this band with the Mean Streak, and it wasn't until what 90, when did those Mondo ones come out? 90 or
92,
92.
92,
So it
yeah.
wasn't until 92. I do remember uh, ordering it out of a magazine or something
Me
like
too.
that to
Me
get.
too. I ordered it from a place called Metal Disc, which I ordered a lot of stuff from around that time. And actually a lot of my Y&T CDs came from there because that's where I got Earthshaker, because I couldn't
Yeah,
find it on
yep, I
anything.
remember
So,
that. Yeah,
but yeah, but once I started ordering, they'd send catalogs of their, things that just became available. And all of a sudden I saw Yesterday and Today, Yesterday and Today Struck Down, and they weren't that expensive. And I mean, I'm glad I bought them when I did because I think that company went belly up.
yeah,
And according to Dave, they didn't get paid for those.
no,
But yeah, up to that point, I think most of us we'd heard 25 hours a day on Open Fire, and we'd heard
right,
Beautiful Dreamer, the 80 recording that's on Best of 81 85, and
yep,
then
and
Struck Down on Yesterday and Today Love, and Beautiful Dreamer's on there too. Great version of Beautiful Dreamer. And actually, it
yep,
wasn't until Yesterday and Today Live when I read the liner notes that I had learned what their second album was even called. Because I used to try and fill in the blanks, without any information. I thought, well, maybe their second album was called Go for the Throat, and that's where that song came from. Trying to be logical in
right,
a world without logic.
yeah.
Yeah,
So to your point, there was for both of us, right? There was two songs that we had heard.
yeah, that was
On
it. Yeah.
Beautiful Dreamer, a different version on the Best of 81 85, um, but a pretty true version on that farewell concert yesterday and today,
Yeah, some
live.
great Steph Burns guitar licks on that end solo. I mean, it's not on the
Yeah,
original, but boy, I love that lineup. I mean, that was my entry point, right? Steph and Jimmy.
right. Yeah,
Um, I remember like being so excited not only to find out it existed, but then, to actually get it in my hands. Um, because that was undoubtedly, you look at the front cover and you go, well, that's not that I knew it was, but well, that's them. You could pick them
yeah,
out. I always thought that Leonard reminded me of Alex Van Halen. These photos on the back cover,
yeah,
just him and
yeah.
like I thought
Those,
those look so much like Alex,
yeah,
and Phil with his big bell bottoms, and Dave with the sideburns, and a flying V that was different,
yeah.
and
Joey and that mustache. There's sometimes
yeah,
he kind of looks a little like Joe Walsh a little bit from.
a little, and he kind of looks like he looks a little baked, I have
Yeah,
to
a little
say.
bit.
I mean, they all might have been,
Yeah,
um, but I was so excited to listen to this, and I think that for a 76 album that, yes, it was on, I mean, a quasi major label, but they probably didn't have a very big budget, and Smiggy was not an experienced producer.
yeah.
I love the sound of this album. It
So
sounds like a really well recorded sound check to me.
yeah, right. So let's dive into some of the songs here. So I kind of like to start with the two that we were just talking about. So
Yeah.
25 hours a day and Beautiful Dreamer. So tell me about, like, hearing those songs, where you did start, and then when you finally got this CD from Mondo in your hands and took a listen, what did you think of those two songs off of the album?
5 hours a day. Yeah, I first got Open Fire probably September of 1990. That was one I got that one and Best of 81 to 85 at the same time. And when I got those were the last Y&T albums I could find for about a year until Yesterday and Today Live came out. So yeah, I heard 25 hours a day on Open Fire and super catchy, um, real easy to get in your head. And obvious when because of the order I got into bands, the title 25 hours a day made me think of Night Ranger, Secret of My Success.
Yeah.
You know, I'm living 25 hours a day. I don't know, those guys knew each other, but I mean, it's no different. It's like the other way of saying 8 days a week, right? Like these guys were Beatles fans, obviously. Super catchy song, but yeah, I mean, as fans know, the main difference when you listen to the version on the first album, they uh, they don't do the chorus as many times, and I think that's a smart move they made when they started playing it again. They get right to the chorus sooner because it's a catchy chorus, but it's like I think that right off the top of my head, like they do the verse and then they go into a solo and then
Yep.
they do another verse and then the
Yep.
choruses are all at the end, but they're like,
Yep.
that's catchy, we need to do that sooner.
Yeah.
um
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
yeah, I mean, it's simple but it's effective, and the funny thing is, I don't know why I've thought this. I've always, kind of known that the guys in Tesla were fans of Y&T. The first time I ever saw that old Yesterday and Today logo was on Troy Lucketta's shirt inside of Great Radio Controversy, which I got really excited about because that was a big
Yeah.
band at the time. But when they did their two covers albums, the Reel to Reel Volume 1 and 2, I think Jeff Keith would sound great singing 25 hours a day. I think if they were going to cover a Y&T song, that would be the one. I don't know why I think that. I just think I'd love to hear them cover these guys and
Sure.
maybe get a little more, attention out there. But for some reason, I've always thought that song would be a natural for Tesla to do. Um, it's a great song, and I'm surprised. Well, okay, I think that if they had done that with the chorus, and then the record label had heard it, that might have been a single from the album. I'm not saying it would have been a hit, but I think they would
Right.
have recognized that it's got a little bit more um, appeal. Like you could hear that on the radio, right? I mean, so it's heavy, but it's not heavy. It's not brutally heavy, but it is loud and raucous, and it's just a really, really, drum centered on everything. Like, Leonard just rides the bus. He's driving the bus on this album,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're all
There's
working around him.
Leonard's drums on this album. The way they
Crazy,
were
like
recorded
crazy,
was
crazy
just
good.
yeah.
Beautiful Dreamer, I think is one of their best early songs. I've always loved it. To me, the definitive version is the 80 one because that's the first one I heard. Um, but it is a fantastic song. It is a good example, an early example of them being hard rock, no doubt, like definitely rocking hard, but being very melodic. And I don't know if maybe it's too long to be a single, but I love the guitar interplay. And there's probably no better example of Dave Meniketti reminding me, or vice versa, of Neil Sean. Those solos at the end of Beautiful Dreamer, like doing those
Yep.
things in threes, sounds very much like Neil. Of course, those two came up, in the same scene. They had the same management for a brief time, but great songs. And I can see why it makes sense that those were the ones that survived in one form or another more than the other ones. But I certainly wasn't disappointed by the rest of the album. But yeah, those two songs, fantastic and good early examples of songwriting, capabilities, how to be rocking, but how to be melodic.
Right. I remember my initial reaction when I first heard this album was, especially with those two songs, haven't heard them the way we did, was you know this is 70s. Like
Oh yeah, there's definitely a
this is
difference.
dated.
Yeah,
I mean, it
there's
was
de-
like, holy cow, it's like I don't know that I like these as much on there, but as you listen to it and you kind of appreciate it, um, they are really good on this album. I mean, you got to put yourself back in, that time frame and and what was going on. Those songs are great. I mean,
it could,
for me, Beautiful Dreamer on this album, I mean, it's longer and it's got
yeah,
some extra guitar work,
it would have had to have
solos
been
and stuff
edited
on
for
there.
radio, I think. I
Yeah,
think they probably would have faded it out, which would have been terrible,
yeah.
but
But that's why I love it,
yeah.
right? It reminds me of I Believe in You a little bit.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's like the end of the song and the
Yep,
end of the album. It's like, thank you for listening. We're just gonna jam for a little bit. Um,
exactly. And
it
then
makes you it makes you wonder, Brian. Like, I like the production on this album, but as far as stuff to get on the radio, it makes you wonder what this would have sounded like if they'd have had like Ted Templeman or Jack Douglas or Tom Werman or somebody like that, like a producer that was radio minded. it might have had a more, because this, I can't hear this on the radio, and I can hear these songs on the radio, but not in these forms. That
No.
version of Beautiful Dreamer from 1980, that's a fully produced, version. Obviously, they had
Yeah, and
probably
you can.
intended for that to be on Earthshaker, and it
Yeah, and the
doesn't
other
sound
thing
nearly
too,
as
I just
dated.
Dave's vocals, between 76 and
Oh
80.
yeah, big improvement. Yeah, not that
Yeah.
they're bad, but he just,
No.
he was
No, not at
improving
all.
all
But
the time.
it's
And as we know, Dave was the reluctant lead singer, but he worked
yeah,
hard and he ended up being a great lead singer.
yep, yep. So there are a couple of great songs on there. So the other one on this album that they actually played during that farewell show, but didn't make the cut, so to speak, for Yesterday and Today Live was Earthshaker, and then
Until the
till
reissue.
the
Yeah, and
reissues a couple
yeah.
years ago. Yep,
It's
on
interesting they had
there.
that title way back then, and it's funny you mentioned or I mentioned I was talking about Tesla. I saw a clip a few years ago of Frank Hannon from Tesla. He's like, anybody recognize this riff down? And I'm like, well, that's Earthshaker.
Yep.
I love it. And it's a good example of how Leonard Hayes. He was one of the very best, but his playing is just short of out of control. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the worst thing you could do is put this album on a grid because it's not in perfect time, but it's in perfect time for the songs. The songs breathe. They speed up, they slow down in just the right places. And his bass drum, like Beautiful Dreamer is pretty crazy with the bass drum for a melodic song, but on Earthshaker, like it's
Yeah, and
crazy.
it is crazy, and I think that's the biggest difference between the studio version on this and then the live version on that Yesterday and Today Live. Is Steph, even though Steph actually played with a double bass with them a lot.
Jimmy.
Jimmy, sorry,
Yeah.
um, Jimmy DeGrasso. Jimmy did is when he played it, it was more hi hats,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
bass drums, which took away from the song if you kind of compare them to. I mean,
Well,
Leonard's
what I
bass
re-
on that thing.
what I remember about hearing the Beautiful Dreamer on Yesterday and Today Live is how he would do the flams on the snare drum, the brum, down,
Yeah, I'm
dun,
sorry,
dun, dun.
Earthshaker on there.
Uh, oh yeah, yeah. That one's not ingrained in my head like the other ones because I've only been hearing it for the last couple of years. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
I
to
mean
me that's the
Jimmy was
biggest
fantastic.
difference on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Jimmy was great, but Jimmy played. It's so weird that not to get too far off topic. It's so weird that Mike Stone didn't like his playing when they were doing the 10 record because Jimmy plays like a studio drummer. He's very pro drummer all the
Yeah,
way. Not that he can't loosen up a little bit. I mean, with all the different people he's played with, but Leonard was just a one of a kind.
yeah. Yeah, I think Dave mentions on there that this was like the eighth song they ever wrote together as a band.
I thought he said the
Earthshaker.
second. Oh, Earthshaker. Yeah.
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 No, Beautiful Dreamer was like the second
Yeah. And
on
then I
there.
think the first one is one of the songs. Is it I'm Not Sorry? It's one of the songs that ended up on the
Fun.
either the Black Tiger or the Mean Streak. I think Mean Streak reissue.
Um oh yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah,
and it originally had another another less radio friendly title, if I recall correctly.
yeah.
But yeah.
So what as we kind of go through this a little bit, any other songs on this album that you think they could if they played live today would really kind of resonate?
Well, I remember hearing a recording of them, and I don't know if it was Sweden Rock, but it was 2003, and they busted out Game Playing Woman. That's
Okay.
always been that's from getting the album and hearing all of the songs for the first time, that's always been one of my favorites. That's very that's very Zeppelin because it's got that fast section in the middle where it gets like it's almost like not well, kind of like Dazed and Confused. It changes tempo quite a bit in the
Yeah.
middle section, and Dave just rips. And of course, Leonard is all over the kit. Um, but that's always been a favorite of mine. Like it's heavy. It's one of the heavier songs. And dun, 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 dun. Um, So I liked hearing a sort of an updated version of that, and I liked the fact that I was glad that they were starting to add some of those songs in. But that's yeah, Uh, off the top of my head, that's probably my favorite on the album, besides the ones that I already knew.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a that is a very good song as well. Um, for me, I think uh, My Heart Plays too.
Oh yeah, well that's fantastic. I call that their first ballad. Some people disagree with me that it's not a ballad. It's close. It's getting there. It's Dave being very soulful vocally and on the guitar. Um, and like he only got better. There's a song that I don't know if they've played that in recent years, but they should because I mean I could see that song that wouldn't have sounded out of place on one of his solo albums because it's bluesy. It's very bluesy.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of I'm surprised that maybe like in that live in Japan that he had that they didn't end up playing that one.
Well, who knows? I mean, that's a short album. Who knows what
That's
the
true.
entire set was? Yeah.
That's true.
That needs to be
Um,
issued in the
you
worst
know
way.
the breakdown in the middle is a little
Non-ballad-esque, yeah. The break,
yeah, a little
yeah.
the very 70s production uh,
Flanged guitar and flanged
flange
everything.
guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the flange overdose we'd get on the next album, but hints at it.
No,
It's
but
almost like producers are like, "Hey, have you heard this yet? You can do this now." It's like, yeah, but if it doesn't serve the song, don't be gratuitous with it.
yeah, that little section there, but then it jumps right back in, right? And
Yeah.
starts picking up that pace and the guitar and take that little bit of section out of there and wrap that up, play that live. I think that could definitely translate today for them
That
sound.
could be just as much of a showcase for Dave as I Believe
Yep.
in You, or it's just it didn't have a chance to become that well known.
Yep. Um, so one song here that I find really interesting, and it's a good song, but I think it might be one of the shortest lyric wise songs Y&T probably ever did, and that's that "Come On Over."
Yeah, of all the songs on that album, and I like it, but it kind of sounds unfinished. It kind of sounds like they were jamming. But you're right. There's like what, two verses, and that's it. It doesn't really have a chorus.
Yeah, and
But
barely it says "Come On Over" the second
it,
line.
it
That's it.
it's got a great that's the one
Yep.
I love the riff.
Yep.
But yeah, it is kind of interesting. It's almost like it's almost like a prog song where it's so many minutes long, but if you just isolate it's like how much is actually singing, there's not a lot in there. Like Xanadu by Rush, like the actual
Yeah.
it's 11 minutes long, but there's probably like a minute and a half of vocal. I don't know, something like that. But I like it. But yeah, I get what you mean. It doesn't really have um yeah, it's
Yeah.
I'm
No
gonna
chorus
guess
at
that
all.
I'm gonna guess that was an earlier one for them. And they're not the only band that's done that. Like other bands do that. Like when you think about it, even like classic songs, if you think about it, some don't actually have a chorus. Like if the chorus is the riff, or they say the title and it goes back into the riff again. It doesn't. There's no elevation for the chorus and then back down into another verse or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean it's I just found it interesting, and just you look at the lyrics on the lyric sheet, and it's like that is it. That's all the lyrics are to this song.
And the
It's
lyrics are
yeah,
hotter, uh, smaller than a bread box, hotter than the toast.
yeah, exactly. I'm like,
I've
okay.
never heard that. I've never heard that in a song before or since. But yeah, and I make mention of that in the book too. I'm like, they hold if that would be one to if you get that at trivia, you've got to be a huge Y&T fan. You're not
Right.
going to stumble upon that.
No, no.
If you know, you know.
Yep. And we started talking about it a little bit, but the one single, they released "Alcohol."
Yep.
Leonard, obviously hearing the first time, vocals for Leonard.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that
think,
was
it is. It's makes me think of that, that bar band on a Friday or Saturday night at the local pub or a karaoke type, thing where you're out.
It's a song that if it got more traction, I think that it could have been a staple of bar bands. It could have been like ZZ Top Tush or
Yeah.
I always think Nazareth Hair of the Dog or Cold Gin. I mean, you're playing to a bunch of rowdy,
Oh yeah, you can't think you
it's
get a bunch of
Friday
people in
night.
a bar to start
They
yelling
want to start the
alcohol,
alcohol. You
alcohol.
need never have heard it before, but you'll always remember. I mean, how it's caveman-esque, but it
Yeah.
is catchy. Yeah, it's too bad it didn't go on. And it's funny because that's the song that really like Leonard Hayes as a personality and even to look at him. That's the one right there where it's like he's reminds me of John Belushi. Like it almost like, there's something about a frat party, about the way that he sings that. It's so like it's or maybe like Ace, where he's sort of like talking the
Yeah,
lyrics. I went
exactly.
to a party
Marty,
just the
yeah, yeah,
other night. Yeah. I mean, like just my heater's broke. I'm so tired. Like he's just
yeah,
explaining what he sees, right? But it does tell a little story, Danny P, listen here, boy, this here's the law of the land. And anybody that's ever had a hangover, I mean, they would revisit this, obviously, bar and boogie, but
yeah,
head explode, or how's that go? My guts were aching, and I mean, who hasn't felt like that? But yeah, that could have gone on not to be a hit, but it could have gone on to be one of those songs that bands just pick up on, and then as people hear them, they're like, oh, what's that song? Let's learn that, because I mean, that'll get the crowd on your side instantly, right? I'm really
yeah,
surprised that hasn't happened because I mean, it's just begging for some bar band to start playing it, and without mentioning who it is, they just, you could come out opening with that, and it doesn't matter. It's like, who are these guys? Right on, alcohol. I can relate to that,
yeah.
and that's one of the
People will
songs.
definitely get into it, and maybe that's what the London records. That's what they
They might
that's
have
what
been
they were
thinking that,
thinking, and
and that's one of the songs that's on this release here. This, I think it's been released in different covers, but this is
yeah,
that record plant recording from 1974. It's also got Beautiful Dreamer, My Heart Plays Too, and Game Playing Woman from the first album. But it's just, Leonard's. It was cool. I at first I didn't realize. I thought it was Phil, because the first time I'd heard Phil sing was Squeeze on
right,
Yesterday and Today Live. I didn't know that. It's like the funny thing is when I first got into Kiss, because I knew so little about that band, I'd basically only seen the videos from the 80s. I thought Paul Stanley sang everything.
everything, yeah,
I didn't know that they all, the original four all sang. So when I first heard, I think, well, that's got to be Phil, but it doesn't quite sound like him. I mean, you can't look things like that up. And after a while, you read, oh, okay, well, no wonder it sounds different. It's Leonard. And is that is that the only lead vocal he ever did?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
probably. I mean, it's okay. It fits the song, but I do like the one time for his Dave. I like that. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's fun. Just a fun drunken rock and roller. I mean, it sounds like its title. It sounds like they're you know getting through the recording, but just barely.
right, yeah. Well, speaking of Phil on vocals, there, the first track on this album, Animal Woman, you have, first voice you hear
Yep.
is Phil's.
Which is
Uh,
surprising. Like coming into it when we did, right?
yes,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
he and Dave trading off the vocals, but the first thing like that just Leonard's bass drum, boom, 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 like it just bursts out of the speakers. And what a great riff. Like so much energy to this song. Um, Phil's vocals are Phil's vocals, but there's a charm to them. Um, but again, I hate to hark on the Kiss thing, but it reminds me of Gene and
Yeah,
Paul
Gene.
trading vocals, like on
Absolutely.
Shout It Out Loud or something.
Absolutely.
Now they weren't in, I mean, these guys, it's not an influence because they were coming up at the same
Yeah.
want multiple people singing. They didn't want to confuse the public. So Dave ended up singing all the songs. Not the only band that happened to. I mean, look at, well, here's A&M again. Look at 38 Special. That Donnie Van Zant, that band was centered around him as,
Yes.
member of that classic,
Sure.
Southern rock
Skinner. Yeah.
royalty. and then they started having hits, but they were all songs that Don Barnes sang.
Mhm.
So, by the time Strength in Numbers came out, poor Donnie's relegated to the last two songs on the album. They didn't, but at the same time, it didn't hurt Fleetwood Mac. It didn't hurt Toto. You know what I mean? There's other bands that could do that.
Yeah, I
Have
I
multiple
just think
singers.
that unlike, with Gene and Paul, from Kiss, I think, Paul is actually, obviously the better vocalist, but Gene could still,
Yeah. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. And those,
Phil's
the
voice, I mean, it's not.
it's not a lead singer's voice.
No, but I tell
It's
you what though, from a background vocalist, he added
great.
so much
Yeah.
to
The high
these
harmonies
songs.
were essential.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
And
mean, it's not to the level, but reminds me of, a little bit of Michael Anthony with
Michael
Van Halen.
Anthony. Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and by the same token, I mean, I think even Leonard, would sort of serve maybe the Eddie Van Halen role, where that's sort of those sort of mid vocals, or
yeah,
even Brian May, to use another example of, just singing the low harmony parts. Somebody's got to do it. Yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely. So, but yeah, Animal Woman is, I think it's a good lead off track, and
Yeah.
strong guitar work on there. And if anybody hasn't seen um, it's on YouTube, the 1974 show from Winterland, black and
Yeah.
white.
Which is similar to, well, I think that's where all these stills came
Yeah,
from.
that's where those stills come from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely check that out, because
Yeah.
this is a couple of years before this album comes out, and they're playing quite a few of these songs.
Yeah.
And they are very good live, and they're you know I think you can kind of say that this a lot of these tracks were probably recorded, the four of them in the same room, or
Oh, yeah, it sounds very, very live to me. If anything, maybe Dave had to go back and fix some vocals,
vocals, sure.
but
Yeah, but
but
not a lot
as
of
a band,
overdub.
no, no. But you wouldn't want a lot of overdubs. These songs don't call for a lot of overdubs.
Yep, no, absolutely. So, um, I guess the last one we didn't really talk about too much is Fast Ladies and Very Slow Gin.
Yeah, I say, in my book, I say that this is their, live fast, die young song, because every band had to have one, right? Like,
Yeah.
running with the devil, or um, basically all of Motley Crue's first album. But that's kind of what it's about. It's, live, live, live every moment, as REO Speedwagon would say. But, don't worry about what's coming down. It's not the best advice, but that's a cool song too. Um, I like That's kind of like Come On Over. I almost think they could have done more with that,
Yeah.
because I like the riff. Dun, dun, dun,
Yep.
dun, 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 dun. Like, it's kind of tricky. Um, and it changes tempo from when it
Yep.
starts to when it goes into the verses. The chorus could have been improved upon a little bit, but it's an early example of their harmonies, and their harmonies on a fast song too, not just on the more melodic ones.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
definitely, especially um, definitely hear Phil that, very Fast Ladies, and you kind of hear Dave,
very slow
Slow
gin, yeah.
Gin. Yeah.
And it's almost like it's the phrasing. It's almost like a Thin Lizzy approach. The phrasing doesn't
Yes,
exactly
yes,
land on the
yes,
beat, which is kind of cool.
yes,
The
absolutely.
more I listen to Thin Lizzy, the more I hear their influence on tons of bands.
Yeah, no, absolutely on there. So, all right. Anything else you want to add on this debut album?
It's a fine start. I mean, it's a shame that, obviously, it's a shame they didn't hit that higher, amount of fame, so those albums would have been reissued. I'm just trying to picture what they would have looked like, um, had A&M,
Well, that's a common theme with this band, right?
if they'd have re-signed, if they'd have been really, if Summertime Girls had been a big hit and they'd done everything right, and they didn't put out Open Fire, or they put out Open Fire with more recognizable songs, and then, Down for the Count, they did a little bit differently. But if they quietly would have put those albums out, what would they look like? Would they put the Y&T logo on them, or, what would they have done? It's kind of, I'm just trying to picture this picture with the
Yeah.
Y&T logo over it, right? I'm sure somebody could whip one of those up, but
But
or
we
would you
didn't really
want
talk
to?
about that though, but the logo, this yesterday and today logo.
You know, Martin Popoff said again, thank you for mentioning the book. I do have to, reference that again. But Martin Popoff said for a clunky kind of name, they did come up with a cool logo
It is a cool logo.
by taking day, which is in both words, and making that huge.
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like when you look at it, it's not like this, but it almost reminds me of like the Angel logo. And you wonder, like, if you turn it upside down, if it looks the same. It doesn't.
Oh
But that's
no.
kind of, or the Dio
Yeah.
logo. I say if you turn the Dio logo upside down, it says devil. I guess. I mean, if you use your imagination, but it's a
Everything with
cool.
Dio says devil.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Um, I used to have. I must have put them in the closet. When I got the documentary, I got a bunch of guitar picks, and one of them had the just a
Yesterday
red logo on.
logo.
I like the logo a lot. I think that yeah, because it is a clunky name, especially if you just see it written out like this, right? It's
Yeah.
just a bunch, it's just a bunch of words. But the funny thing is that you can do this too. You can cover up the
Yeah.
and
There you
just
go.
make it say Y&T. And it also is interesting that they're using A and D as well, right? They're not using the
Yeah.
ampersand.
I had
Um,
those old school like 3/4 sleeve like baseball shirts or whatever like they used to sell back in the 80s at concerts and
yeah,
stuff like that with this logo on it.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
cool.
I think maybe that's one of those things. The Y&T store. I know they do everything print on demand now, but
Yeah,
having that old logo back, I'd definitely order another shirt with that on there.
yeah, it definitely. I mean, it's a cool logo given the name, and I'm glad that when they shortened the name, they didn't just try to repurpose the old logo because it wouldn't have worked. They came up with that sort of regal looking,
No, because they could have easily done Y and then ANDT.
I wish now, there's so many things you think about over the years, and you can't just, before the age of cell phones, you couldn't just snap photos. But I do remember distinctly being in a record store, and when they would have the cassettes, and they would have those little label makers that you could print out and
Yep.
cut off, and
Yeah.
and the section with Y&T, it looked like one word, yamped, like Y&T, one word, like almost like Yanni. So again, that goes into the whole thing where people confused what this band was actually called and how do you say it. But but a great debut album. Like it's certainly nothing to be. There's nothing to be embarrassed about here. These guys they were young guys and they were so good. I mean, and
No, I mean you
it's
can. I
it's not like
mean,
they didn't capture what they sound like on stage because this is a very, very live sounding studio album.
yeah, I mean you can. I mean, just again, if you watch that Winterland and he- Dave's guitar playing, I mean, from the get-go, it's like, man, this guy is like special,
He just had another
and
he had another gear. He was early on and
yep,
for all that he said he was never like a metal guitar player. He can shred with the best of them. Like he can get going really, really fast,
yeah,
but
and
always melodic.
that kind of goes back to I think there was an episode that I think you did on Sea of Tranquility or something like that, where you guys kind of talked about, would this band have been better if they promoted him as a guitar god, or if he actually did go to Ozzy for a little bit and then come back, i.e.
Right,
Brad Gillis, would that
right.
would that have done anything?
That's true. But one important difference between Dave's situation and Brad is that Night Ranger hadn't started yet. So
Yes.
it's like not nobody would have been waiting to find out what happened with Night Ranger. And then people have short memories and they forget. It could have slowed all of Y&T's momentum and they might not even have achieved what they did end up doing. Dave might have made a name for himself and ended up being this dependable. He might have been really reliable gunslinger, like someone like, I don't know, just Al Petrelli or, throwing out names like that, right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm kind of surprised that kind of didn't happen is that he has guested on people's albums, But I mean, he's good enough to be a studio guy. He could have been a studio player. He's that good. He's that exact.
Yeah. I don't think that's something that he probably would have been
No, I
happy
mean,
with.
no, but I was just saying the chops are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just he was, you know, too good at both.
Well, it's like people couldn't believe that someone that did both of those, which are, both hard positions to be in a band. I mean, they require a lot of attention. You would think that one or the other would suffer, but no, they didn't. So yeah,
No.
if he'd have gotten the guitar magazines, they could have done. I mean, he did get in a lot of you've seen him in like the Kramer ads. Like
Yeah.
there's a really cool Kramer ad from I want to say 87. So like you
Yeah,
see
the
him
whites,
and
that
and
white
and
Kramer they used to
the
play.
white
He
Kramer,
played, yeah.
yeah. So him and Vivian Campbell and Richie Sambora and the Queensryche guitar players. So he did get those, but he didn't get the covers by himself, and he probably should have. And I think that that might have elevated, at least people would have known his name, and then by extension they would have, learned about the band he's in. So
Yeah.
I mean, we could do the what ifs
I know. We
and endlessly, and I think you kind of it's natural to do it because, like I've said many times, it must have been something.
Yeah. I still
So,
can't figure it out. Never will
but
figure it out.
in talking about how they could have broken through, like if they had reissued those first two albums, I mean, if you think about AC/DC, like High Voltage and Let There Be Rock and Power Age, they weren't big sellers when they first came out, but they
No.
eventually went platinum based on being reissued by Atlantic and everything that came after them. So these could have done the same thing. I mean, I'm not saying they would have been multi-platinum, but they could have had a couple gold records with them for people going
Yeah.
back and
Well,
filling in the collection.
yeah. AC/DC did have Back in Black, which did go
Well, yeah,
sell
I mean,
15
yeah.
albums
Um,
that definitely helped them reissue all that
but I
stuff.
mean, like even, if a band is big enough, I mean, even Aerosmith's Rockin' Hard Place went gold eventually. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, Tim and I could talk to Y&T all day here. So, but um, if you don't have this album, this just came out this year.
I don't know
Tim and
how
I,
available it is now, but it's good. I
yeah,
mean,
you can find
it's
it a
it's
lot.
good to have.
You can find it, and this is the best version, especially on
Yeah.
CD.
Yeah, the best
We've got
version is still yet to come, we think, but that's the best one so far, right?
yes,
And another
correct.
thing, and we talked about this before we started filming, that cassette that you got that from Loretta, that's essentially the cassette version of 1-2, which is the band put that out in I want to say 2010. Yeah, where they just because they're short albums, they were able to stick them both on one CD. I think that's out of print too.
2009, yeah,
Yeah, and
close.
I remember thinking when that came out that some of the songs sounded better than the Mondo album or the Mondo version, but the Rock Candy one, I think they did the best they could with what's still
What they
available.
had. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right, Tim, thanks again for your time and coming
always,
back
always,
on.
I'm always ready to talk Y&T. It doesn't take a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, well, that's why I go to you and John. So, love talking Y&T with you. So, all right, guys, if you haven't checked out part one yet, check that out. We'll go through all the vinyl versions of this debut album from yesterday and today, including the few singles that were out there. So check that episode out, and then look for more episodes talking about Y&T and the rest of the albums that we haven't talked about yet. So with that, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe down below. Leave some comments on there. Let me know what the next album you'd like for us to talk about. So with that, have a great day.